Hello, everybody. Hope you're well. Here we are, Monday again. God, does it go quickly. Week 5 of 2021 and nearing the end of the winter season already. So those of you who've been following, thanks so much because getting loads of lovely feedback. And as you know, we go live 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Just making sure I'm plugged in here. I'm not, so 2 seconds, hold on. Just saw that battery going down. So yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we go live. And Monday, we talk about body. Wednesday, we talk about mindset. And Friday, we talk about business. And what I love to do is to have guests on who've actually, found things that really work, have implemented things that work. And, I debate it with them. And hopefully, as a result of that, these little shows are of great use to you, whether you're, you have a particular interest in body, mind, business, transforming your body, upgrading your mind, or building your business, or maybe all three. And I'm a firm believer, as I think you know by now, that all three are inextricably linked. And if you can get the two foundations in place, which is a strong body, and this is nothing to do necessarily with how it looks, although obviously one of the benefits of being strong is your body looks strong and looks a lot better. But one of the key foundations is a strong body. And when you get that, it sort of makes you feel in control of things. And that in itself makes you a lot more stronger mentally and a lot more resilient. And if you can sort that out and have those two fundamentals in place, I believe you are then a lot better positioned to do whatever it is you want to do, whether that is to build a business, build a new business, change your business, change your career, implement a big project, whatever it is you want to do. I feel if you get those two, or whether it's just to live a long and healthy and happy life, to be around for the people that you love and for future generations, whatever it is, and I think that's one of the most important reasons, by the way, having those three in place can really help you. So today we're talking business, body rather, and what I wanted to do today was to bring you some tips from a real professional in this area. His name is Garry Savin, and he is one of the chief medical officers at the Harley Street Medical Practice, the Harley Street Medical Centre, in fact. And I've talked to you before about preventative health. I call it health care as opposed to sick care, because normally speaking, we tend to see a doctor when we think there's something wrong. And I've been for many years now a big advocate of going to see a doctor to have a medical checkup when you actually don't think there's anything wrong, because if you can spot things early on, then your chances of not getting really ill from something that could have been avoided really obviously increase. And so I wanted to bring Garry on to talk to you, but he's very busy and obviously has many patients and stuff in the day. So we recorded an interview. It's about 15 minutes long, but it's very much about what a medical checkup at Harley Street, his centre there, actually entails. And I thought you'd like to hear his take on when to start exercise, the fact it's never too late, the benefits of healthy eating and exercise, and what it can actually do to your chances of living a longer, fitter, more healthy life. So I thought I'd play it first, and then afterwards, if you have any questions, then by all means, I'll stay here and I can answer them. In fact, I had a throwback come up on Facebook just yesterday, and it was dated in 2015, and I was talking about the fact that I just had a medical checkup then. It said about the good, healthy levels of cholesterol, etc., that had been found. But one of the things that it found at that point was that I actually absorbed too much iron, and turned out that I had this gene called hemochromatosis, which, if you know about it, is very manageable. You give blood on a bit more frequent basis. It means that your body absorbs a lot of iron and keeps a lot of iron. And that's great in that it will keep you strong and energetic. But if you have too much iron in your body, it's very dangerous. It can overload your vital organs. And ultimately, if you don't know about it, it can cause death. And that's just one of the things that was picked up through me having a medical check. So I think that's the first thing. My experience is that, if there is anything going on, you can find out about it this way, and then you can do something about it, because many of these illnesses and things like cancers, they start many years before they're detected. And we've all got cancers in our body, it's when cells, they don't die, they sort of continue to multiply, they become sort of like rogue cells, as I understand it, and it then can cause cancer in the body. Whereas if you can detect these things going on earlier, prior to the cancers really developing, then you can, pretty much you can address them. So, and the things that people die of usually are heart disease and cancer and Alzheimer's, sadly. And a lot of these can be managed by some pretty simple lifestyle things. The healthy things that you can do from a lifestyle perspective, and really it boils down to such simple stuff. I was on a 4-day virtual conference with some real experts on longevity just last weekend. And, I always love to listen to these things, because if there's anything new coming out, these particular sources will be telling you about it. And, I don't like new for new's sake, but what's really good about some of these conferences is if they start to tell you things that you knew already and they just got a bit more information, what it does is it cements the message. So this was a longevity conference. The very first thing that they mentioned of everything, and you probably won't be surprised by this anymore, is sleep. So they had the guy on who wrote the book, Why We Sleep, and Matthew Walker. And it basically sort of talks about the fact that, we have to have sleep as human beings. And if we didn't need it by now, evolution would have got rid of it for us, because it really doesn't make sense to sleep, because while we're sleeping, we can't be productive, we can't protect ourselves, we can't, sort of reproduce. And so consequently, if it wasn't absolutely imperative for us to charge our batteries via sleep, we wouldn't be sleeping anymore. So in that book, he talks about all the ways to get better sleep. But the key message from that conference is that it is not wise to almost be macho about the fact that you don't need sleep. It's not a good thing. And most humans will need between 7 and 9 hours worth of sleep. And if you're getting less than 7, then you can be sure that that is not doing good things to your body ultimately. So that was the first one, was sleep. The second one, surprise, surprise, is to do with what we put in our body, the nutrition. But in particular, they really, really emphasized the danger of sugar and processed foods. And, the fact that all of our food is made by about 10 companies, the Nestle's of this world, only about 10 companies. And then, these 10 companies, they showed a slide where these 10 companies then have got so many thousands of brands that you will never know. But all of them have in common the fact that, as they said in this conference, nature is giving us food for life. Manufacturers are giving us food to make money. And when you start to think about food in that way, it starts to make you understand why they are putting things into our food to make it addictive. The things that they put into our food primarily tend to be sugar. And there was a lot of debate about what sugar does, when you've got already high fats in your body. If you then start to put sugar in as well, it then gives you insulin spikes, and that in turn basically clogs up your arteries. And in a nutshell, it causes heart disease and, of course, cancers as well. And so if you're only going to take 2 things to do to change, one is to sort your sleep out and get at least 7 hours. Even if you don't want to know the ins and outs of why, just get the 7 hours. And the second thing is to try to withdraw from sugar. And one of the suggestions is to start with a 22-day sugar fast. And the easiest way to do that is not to think about what you can't have, but think about what you can have. And what you effectively can have is anything that's natural, that doesn't have a list of ingredients in it. So if you start thinking about that, that is fish, that is eggs, that is, fruit, that is vegetables, that is, because you can have natural sugar. That is, as I said, any sort of meats, fish, avocado, eggs, nuts, a whole variety of natural products, anything that you could buy that's not in a box and doesn't have a whole list of ingredients. In particular, staying away from processed, pies and pastries, anything that's got sugar and flour in it, basically. And if you try and do that for 22 days, you'd be absolutely amazed at how much better you feel and how much more energetic you feel. And I notice I haven't mentioned anything yet about going to the gym, working out, lifting weights, even walking. So those 2 things that I've just mentioned are really the fundamental steps in completely and radically changing your health and improving your longevity. So my pilot in the background here, Sabrine, is, I hope, ready to play this interview for you, and we'll have a little listen. I only filmed it with him on Friday, and then I'll come back and answer some questions.
Exercise, and then they turn out to be fantastically fit. And other people say they do lots of exercise, and then they turn out actually not to be. So one's perception of what your activity levels are sometimes is very different from reality.
Yeah, I mean, do you find it a lot of times that people sort of, I mean, I know from my perspective that what happens is when they first come on the program and you ask them what they eat and you know, what their exercise routine is, oh my goodness, every single person says to me, well, I eat quite healthily, actually. I'm quite a healthy eater. And
they
then
overestimate at the beginning, yeah, and they overestimate their exercise usually.
Is that what happens? Yeah. Why do people do that then?
It's kind of a denial mechanism, because you want to sound good to other people, so you convince yourself that you're actually doing more than you really are. Most people overestimate their exercise, and they'll underestimate their alcohol by about 50%.
Yeah.
So if somebody says I drink 14 units a week, it's usually about 30.
Yeah. And but I suppose the sort of people you see are going to, by the very nature of them, they're going to be a slightly unusual group. One, they're going to be able to afford your services anyway. Secondly, they're going to be willing to spend their money on preventative health, which a lot of people won't do that unless they've actually got a problem.
Correct. So the people I see generally as a demographic, although it's a generalization, is they tend to be more self-aware about the value of health. And they realise that health is wealth, and they tend to be fitter than average, very self-motivated, have a strong sense of purpose, goal-setting people, competitive, alpha males and females, what we call type A personalities, push themselves hard, drive hard, ambitious. So they tend to have those qualities, which means they're in a job where they're high earning, because they are, you know, they're competitive. On the other hand, though, they're more prone to things like burnout and stress-related problems, because they've got a very good accelerator pedal, but they don't know where the brake pedal is. So they just keep going until they hit the wall, they fall over, and then they have a breakdown, or they just become so overworked that they're not functioning. So they tend to be much fitter than average. You know, they tend to do triathlons and things like that.
Yeah. And when they come to you, what are they primarily coming to you because they're afraid of dying, or getting ill, or is it more about, like, you know, they want to get fitter? Is it a moving towards type mindset, or is it a moving away type mindset?
It's a big spectrum. So some people have something that they're worried about, and they've got an underlying concern about it, some symptom that nobody's got to the bottom of. Some people just understand that, like their car, they have to take it for a service every year, and it's a formality, and they come along and they just get a checkup, and they don't expect there to be anything wrong, but they just want to make sure that everything's working as it should. And then you've got another group of people who are probably very worried about something in particular that they perhaps haven't told anyone else about, and sometimes they don't even tell me what it is. But they come along because they're worried they've got a cancer or something specific. So it's a bit of a spectrum, really.
And people, when they come on my program, obviously they have to afford to be on the program in the first place, but we have sort of payment plans. And then what I find is that the more they think they're coming on my program to get fit, to get a six-pack, to lose the belly fat or whatever it is, and also they want to improve their career somehow. But when they actually get onto it, they realize that so much of it is about their mindset. You know, it's more about mindset than anything else, because once they get that right, everything else falls into it. So you actually cover mindset and people's mental health as well as part of your program, don't you?
Yeah, so we're looking really for any mental health issues. So the key ones are stress, anxiety, depression. They're the three main ones. And of course, as I said, stress can lead to burnout. So somebody might be displaying a lot of symptoms that they're about to burn out, but they don't realize it themselves. And that's a high risk in the sort of people that we might see, who are type A personalities, and they tend to push themselves to the limit, some of them, and they don't switch off.
And if someone starts to come to you on a regular basis, which, by the way, what would you define as regular? Then what's their chances of sort of, containing and managing future illnesses?
Yeah. So regular would be, ideally, we want to see people every 1 to 2 years, really. We're scanning. I'm lucky because we can scan people and see inside. So the checkups that we do, we can see their internal organs right down to 3 millimeters. So we're trying to spot any trouble very early while it's at a stage where it can be treated. So if somebody comes to my program regularly, then they've got a very high chance of not dying prematurely because of something that would otherwise kill them, and by the time they've got symptoms, it's too late. So, unfortunately, a lot of cancers, for example, are quite silent in the early stages. And then lots of people were diagnosed at stage 3 or 4 when really you want to get them diagnosed at stage 1 or even less, where you can the treatment is usually very, very good for most cancers.
And you can pick that up with your scans and everything, can't you? And bloods.
Yeah. So I've been doing this for a long, long time now, and I've pretty much picked up most cancers that you could think of at some point. I've had very young people who've been very fit and well, who've been training and working and, leading a fantastic, healthy lifestyle. And we found something significant. So the other thing I've learned is that you can do all the right things, but you can still succumb to an illness or a cancer, even though you're doing everything. Your risk is less, of course, but Martina Navratilova is the person I often quote, because she got breast cancer and she was probably the fittest woman or female athlete of her generation. And she's
no one knows
fantastic.
why.
No. So there is, there are some things you can control and there are some things you can't control. And the combination of keeping your risk factors to a minimum plus early detection is the best combination, really. So trying to avoid problems and also detecting them as early as possible is the winning combination.
Well, it was by coming on your checkup about 4 years ago that you found out that I had hemochromatosis. You said to me, you've got this high ferritin level.
Yeah.
You ought to go and get it checked out. And you thought it was this thing called hemochromatosis. And you said it's really rare. You doubt it, but go and check it out. And sure enough,
yes,
it is what I had. And then I don't know if I told you, but it wasn't just me. It was then my mum and my brother. But what I haven't told you, because I only found it out 2 days ago, is that my son has also got very raised levels. Because you said to me, didn't you, has my children been? And I said no. And he didn't actually go and get tested for it, but it turns out his iron levels are about 400, I think he said.
That'd be the ferritin, probably, yes, 400, yes.
Yeah, because it's hereditary. So it's not just, you as an individual. You could pick something up, which even like your parent, as in my case, your siblings, your children might have as well. So
that's correct.
That's
happened quite a lot, actually. Sometimes we do find things that have an implication for first degree or second degree relatives. I had another guy actually who was very, very fit. He was doing lots and lots of training, and we put him on the treadmill and he went into a very dangerous heart rhythm, but he didn't know it, and we knew it because we recorded it. It turned out he had quite a rare heart condition, which was a conduction abnormality in his heart, and he was doing crazy exercise. He was really super fit. It was a big shock to him and to me, actually, because this is potentially fatal. And it turned out that one of his children had the same condition. So it's very important to find these things early, because some of them are genetic or run in the family. So
yeah, exactly. So getting down to what you actually do on these tests. I mean, I know myself because I've been through them. I wouldn't say they're a little bit. You've got to set the time aside because they're quite extensive. So it's like a good few hours, depending what you have. And, when you have the full body MRI, like you did for me, then, the thought of it is, I would say, is a lot worse than the actual thing itself, because you've got this super duper MRI machine that not only tells you everything, but also from the client perspective, you sat there and I actually watched Mamma Mia film all the way through. It's worth it, I think, for that little bit of inconvenience. And I know it's expensive, but like I say, you know, it's the sort of cost of going on a holiday or a training course. I mean, why would you not do it anyway?
Well,
You know?
yeah, I mean, there's nothing more important than your health, and it's only when you lose your health that you realise that. You know, you take it for granted. Most people take their health for granted.
Well,
So
I
on the
think it's like
webs,
you know, when you've got a sore throat, it's all you can think about. You know,
yeah.
and so, and then that's it, isn't it? And you don't want to do anything, and you're just like, oh my God, I've got this sore throat. So, but when we're fit and healthy, we don't think about it. But the time to do it is when we are fit and healthy.
Well, most of us spend more money on our car, getting our cars looked after than we do on ourselves. And
Yeah.
most of us are more worried about charging our phone up than we are about charging our own body up. So, you know, a lot of people are sleep deprived, they don't look after themselves, they're overdoing it, and yet they're more worried about their phone charging. So
Mad, isn't it? Yeah.
it's all a sense of perspective, really. You know, most people get their boilers serviced every year, they get their car serviced, you know, once or twice a year, think nothing of it. It's common sense. And yet we only seem to worry about our bodies when something falls off or breaks down, which is often a bit late then.
Yeah.
So I once worked out it's about 1 or 2 coffees a day is the price of the checkups.
And the thing is, if you're young and relatively young and fit, you don't have to have it every year. You can do it every other year and things.
Or
And you do
2 or 3 years, yeah.
And you do it different levels as well. So
Yeah.
did you just want to sort of just give a very quick overview?
Yeah.
People can talk to you if they want to have it for themselves, but if you just go a quick overview of the different levels then.
Yeah, so I in Harley Street, I do advanced health assessments. So all of my assessments are technically advanced compared to, say, you know, other providers, shall we say. However, there's still a range. So there's a 3.5 hour checkup all the way up to an 8 hour checkup, and they all involve scanning. But they're all general checkups. They cover a wide area of problems, from, you know, psychiatric problems, skin cancers, to internal cancers. However, the level of the checkup determines the degree of data that we can collect. So the highest level checkup would be looking a scan that looks at the inside of your coronary arteries in the heart. So in your heart, you've got these 2 big fuel lines called the right and left coronary arteries, which take blood to your heart wall. And you can imagine if one of those is blocking off or suddenly blocks off, it's pretty bad news for the heart. And your heart, you've got about 4 minutes to live if your heart stops. So what we can do is scan the inside of the arteries now and see the hole down the middle of the artery and the wall of the artery with a CT scan. So that's the highest level checkup. The earliest, the level 1 checkup that we do is about 1.5 hours of MRI scans, which is what you had. But the other checkups also have ultrasound, MRI, and other combinations, as well as different amounts of blood tests and things like that.
And you've done those on me as well, where you've actually shown me actually down the artery walls. I've been able to watch and actually watch my blood pumping down there and look at how clear they are and everything. So that's fascinating to be able to see that.
The technology is getting better all the time, just like computers. You know, the computer you bought 10 years ago is going to be ancient compared to the computers we have now. You know, our smartphones now have got more technology in them than NASA had in 1969 when they landed a man on the moon. So the MRIs are constantly changing, and every year they're bringing out newer and faster ones. So I'm lucky that I've got brand new top of the range scans across all the types of scanners. So
fantastic. Talking of computers, you scan the brain and everything as well, don't you? You look at all of what's going on with the brain. And
so the best way of looking at the brain is with an MRI scanner. Our brain is made of 75% water and also fats as well. It's our fattest organ, but the MRI sees water. So when we scan your brain with an MRI scanner, we get fantastic detail of the inside of the brain. And what we're looking at in the scanner is we can pick up any brain tumours, we can pick up any bleeds in the brain, we can pick up degenerative diseases like multiple sclerosis, previous strokes, things like that. So we also look at the arteries of the brain, and inside the brain we've got some major arteries. So The brain is the most complicated organ that we know about in the known universe. About 80 billion neurons in your brain. Each one of those connects to about 100,000 other neurons. At the base of the brain there, you've got these blood vessels. And in some people, you can get swelling on the blood vessel called an aneurysm. And that can sit there and suddenly pop if it gets too big. And when an aneurysm pops in the brain, it's called a brain hemorrhage. And that's a type of stroke. And that can affect younger people as well, unfortunately. So it can be calamitous. If a young person has a stroke, it's all their potential for the years ahead can be wiped out. So it's important that we pick these things up early so that something can be done about it. So with the brain MRIs, we've got a 3T MRI scanner, which is the most powerful MRI, and it's got the highest resolution. So we can see things very, very, very small. A lot of things that we see in the background, we don't worry about them. We point them out, but they're not going to affect your health. What we're interested in are things that could potentially affect your health.
Yeah, and there are some people who say, "Oh God, I don't want to know about all of that. I'm quite happy just getting on with it." What would you say to those people?
Well, each to their own, and the psychiatrist would call that being in a state of denial. If you don't think about something, you kind of ignore it, it might go away. But if, of course, if there is something important, it's important to know about it so you can actually do something about it. And by ignoring something important, it could be the difference between sometimes living and dying. Because if you've got a small cancer that can be removed surgically, if it's found early, then if you ignore it, 2 or 3 years later, it could be, unfortunately, everywhere in your bones or whatever, and it's just beyond cure. So it's important that if there is something going on, that you try and do something about it, is my view.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it were the worst case scenario where you find something awful, you could start the treatment straight away. And God forbid it were even worse, you found something terminal, you at least go and get your house in order and sort out, your loved one. So I think there's no downside. And I think what happens for me, from my perspective, when you come out of something like that, you just feel like it's a reassurance that you're doing the right thing. It's a recommitment that you'll carry on with your regime, because it does matter. It means you can just sort of get on with your life, really. And
most people just take their health for granted, like I said, and we're so busy now, everyone's so busy and they're focused on their job or the family, or that they take their eye off their own body. And I think what a checkup can do, and hopefully you would resonate with this, is it gives you a focused time where all the distractions in the outside world are taken away, and you're actually looking at your own images of your own body, and you can see how it all works inside, and that's your own body. And if there's something going wrong, you want to know about it. So it kind of brings it into sharp focus that your quality of life is dependent on your body, and you've only got one body.
Of course, it's our one and only vehicle, isn't it? It
is, and I think most of the time we just take things for granted, don't we? So it is important to know if there's something that's about to go wrong.
Yeah. And also, you keep it entirely confidential. I mean, if someone wants the details to go to their doctor, it can, but that doesn't have to. It's just between you and them, and that's the end of it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would always encourage people to go to their GP if there was something important, but it's not mandatory, and it's down to that person's choice. But it's very important that the GP is kept in the picture if possible. But,
good. All right. Well, I think I can vouch for it. I've done it for the last few years, always under your direction, and it's always been a brilliant experience. And as people have seen in the picture and everything, I've gone from strength to strength. So
you're doing amazingly. You're a real inspiration, and it's always a pleasure to see you, because you're someone that other people can aspire to. It can be done, and nothing is impossible. So it's an inspiration. I was very fortunate enough to have another client who was the greatest female athlete probably ever. She had so many gold medals and world records and such like. She was still competing as a top sprinter in her 40s.
Wow.
She was beating girls of 22 to 25, and she was in her early 40s and still winning medals. And every time I saw her, it was incredible that what you can do if you've got the right mindset and you train.
And it's also, it's never too late to start because, you know, although I was one of those that is sort of health conscious, always did a bit of cardio, you know, I always insisted that I was the healthy eater and all of that, you know, but I wasn't training, I wasn't doing things consistently. I would party quite a lot, you know, drink alcohol at the end of the day to relax and things like that, like a lot of people do. So, you know, I was sort of burning the candle at both ends, I suppose you'd call it. And this catches up with you, I think, in terms of how you look. Late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah,
I didn't actually start, you know, I didn't start my training, my proper weight training and nutrition program until I was 55 years old, 54, you know, 54 I was. And that transformation picture that people will see was between the ages of 54 and 55. So anybody who thinks, oh, well, it's great, but, you know, I'm sort of past it, definitely not. You can start any time. And I would say having a checkup and getting some direction is a really great place to start.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to I've seen a lot of people over a long time, and one of the things that amazes me is how adaptable the human body is, and how it's just so incredible that it can change quite distinctly over even 3 months. We scanned a few people once for a TV program who were going to do a 3-month program and then be scanned again afterwards. And one of the guys I remember, he had a really unhealthy heart when we scanned him at the beginning. And then when he was scanned 3 months later, the guy that was reporting his heart images phoned me up and said, have you got the right client? Because I've looked at the previous heart and he looks nothing like this heart. Have you got the right person? Yeah. And what happened, he'd been on a 3-month training program with obviously top nutritionists and body coaches and personal trainers. And this guy changed so much that his heart had completely changed on the image into a completely different heart, really, with completely different results, to the point that the radiologist was confused.
Yeah.
So that's incredible, isn't it?
It is. But I see more and more people now, they come on my program, they literally, after years of, you know, because people come on the program, first of all, and they are, let's say they're in their, you know, 50s, early 50s, late 40s. And they say, oh, you know, when I was 18, I could eat what I wanted. And I always explain, look, you know, you're comparing a 48-year-old with an 18-year-old. Forget the hormones and everything. A 48-year-old has had 30 more years of going to Christmas parties, booze ups with their mates, you know, holidays where they've never got back into a deficit. Yeah. And little by little, you know, bring that 18-year-old 30 years forward doing that, they're going to be the same. And it's not to do with gender, not to do with hormones, menopause and all of that. It's proven that you eat properly, drink water, sleep, you can do an amazing amount with your body. I mean, obviously there are things, as you know, that as you pick up that still can go wrong, but you can do a lot. And it's almost like your body, you start drinking water and sleeping properly and it sort of goes, thank God, thank you. And it starts to heal itself so quickly.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, but I saw this guy once, he was 74. He'd retired and he decided he was going to take up bodybuilding, and he looked fantastic. He was like an older version of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was very ripped. He had a 6-pack, a very low body fat like yourself, great definition. And he just won his weight competition for the veteran bodybuilding contest. He'd only just started it about 2 or 3 years before. And he was 74 and he looked fantastic. And again, I'll never forget him. Even though I saw him about 15 years ago, he stuck in my mind as to what's possible.
Totally. And if people want to do big things in their career later in life, just sort of rounding up really why I sort of joined up Body and Business. I mean, let's take Biden and Trump, whichever one you like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
They're late 70s, both of them.
I know.
That's a big job. You know, you've got to be fit to do some jobs and some, you know, we don't all want to be president of the United States, but we want to do big things and big careers and start businesses. I think you've got to be strong physically and mentally to do that. So
I think that's absolutely right. And again, one of the things that I saw quite early on in doing the advanced health assessments was that most of the CEOs I was seeing actually were training quite a bit in terms of exercise, whereas maybe 30 years ago, they didn't. I think nowadays you have to have the edge by being fit as well.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Because jobs are so difficult and so stressful,
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
need to be as fit as possible.
And if you're being chosen for a role, if you're not an entrepreneur running your own business, but even if you are, you know, still at the end of the day, you want to be picked. You want to be picked by a client for a big contract, or you want to be appointed as the CEO of that top corporation.
Yeah.
I think that people, when I've done interviewing myself,
Yeah.
you know, you look at people and they just seem to have their act together better when they are in shape, don't they?
Yeah,
So many benefits. So Gary, if people want to, you know, having listened to us, that they want to sort of sign up with you, then where's the best place for them to go to sign up with you?
So they can go to the website Harley Street Medical Centre, and then on there they can just have a look at the different checkups and basically fill a form in or call or email us. And I always have a chat with people first just to make sure that that we do the right level of checkup for them.
All right, good.
Depending on their background and family history and things like that.
Excellent. All right,
Yeah.
then. Well, we'll put your details in the notes with this, and hopefully people will be encouraged to come and see you.
Well, keep up the good work. Keep everyone fit and well.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing of all, I think, especially nowadays.
Yeah, completely. All right. Thanks ever so much, Gary.
Thank you. Keep in touch.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks.
See you. Bye.
And that was it. But it was lovely to hear from Gary to give us that overview. And I think you'll see there, he's very experienced. He knows his stuff. And like I say, I've had probably about 5 checkups with him now. You know, always you leave with a reassurance that even if there is something, you now know about it. You know, it's very thorough. And so over those years, I've been able to see down my own arteries. I've been able to look at my brain. I've been able to sort of see everything sort of moving. And it's reassuring, you know, to actually know that your body is working as it should do. Or to know if there's something, what the next step is. So, but these things are expensive. I do get that. And I suppose there's a couple of things that I would end up on. The first is, if you have got money to allocate, then I would certainly see this as a priority, because as he said, you know, sometimes people are worrying more about charging their phone and worrying more about looking after their car or even getting a new car than they are about their body. Or maybe sort of, you know, that next holiday, going on 3 holidays a year. Well, you know, currently we're not traveling, we're hardly driving anywhere, we're not going on any holidays. So maybe now's the time to allocate some of your budget to something like that. And he does all different levels. And there are many different providers, but and I have nothing to sort of personally gain from this. We don't have any kickback or anything. But what I would say is that a part of being YBMB, I've got a collaboration with the Harley Street Medical Centre. And so if you do want to take advantage of one of these levels and get an advantageous price, then you can come via YBMB and you can get that. But the second thing I would say is, if, you know, at the moment you're not ready to commit to something like that, you don't have the budget, but you're still thinking, well, what can I do? You know, I've already covered 2 of them just prior to the interview coming on, which is sleep and it's diet. And I didn't quite finish the thing on the diet, which is, you know, avoid sugar. I mean, it's really, you don't have to be the sugar police as such, but it's basically, you know, just eat natural things. Just eat stuff that doesn't have a multitude of ingredients, that doesn't come in a box. You know, normal meat, fish, eggs, nuts, vegetables, fruit, oils, you know, yogurts, things like that. Organic if possible, and as naturally sourced as possible, and make that the bulk of your intake. Don't add sugar, certainly not sugar. Even try to avoid things like honey. Don't have alcohol, or minimize it, because again, it's got a lot of sugar. But I was saying before the interview came on that there's just these 10 food companies who then own the thousands of food brands that we see. And what they've all realized between them, and what the guy said on the conference that I went to, this is not Gary, this is a conference from last weekend, is that nature gives us food for life, but manufacturers give us food so they can make money. And you've got to be thinking about that when you look at these foods that are in boxes full of God knows what, you know, and go for things which, if they are coming packaged up, you know the first ingredient is the bulk of the ingredient. So avoid things that have got flour, avoid things that have got sugar, and avoid things that have got all sorts of, you know, E numbers and that are processed. And that is probably, more than anything, the best thing to do for your health. I would say, Don't wait until it's absolutely mandatory. Do it now, and that then is not just going to benefit you, but it will benefit anybody around you who cares about your health, whether that is your other half, your children, your loved ones, your friends, your employees, whoever it is. It's not just, I think, when you think about your body, it's not just about you thinking about you, it's about thinking about everybody else as well. So I'll end on that note, and I hope you found it interesting. And if you have any questions, or you want to find out more about the YBMB program, then there'll be links below. You can jump on. We do taster sessions, we do webinars, we've got some ebooks. I'd love to see you on the program. And what we address there is the fundamentals that I mentioned right at the beginning: getting physically strong, getting mentally strong, because as Gary said, you know, many of us who are sort of, you know, very driven and high achievers and want to do well, you know, we do push ourselves. So mental health is really important. And if you then want to have those fundamentals in place to be able to achieve what you want to in life, then, you know, this is a one-stop shop to do it. And I know from all the other things that I've looked into and all of the courses I've been on in the 40 years in business, I know that you won't get better than what's on this program to help you on your journey. So thanks for listening. Lovely to talk to you again, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.